The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle.
On this week's episode... Did you turn down your MIMC when they offered it to you?
I did initially, yes.
You're listening to the Magicians Podcast, informal interviews with the biggest names in magic.
Welcome, my friends, to the Magicians Podcast. Thanks for pressing the download button. I hope you have also pressed the subscribe button. That way you'll be updated as and when we upload new episodes. They're going up every single Friday. We're nearly halfway through the series. In my head, I've committed to 24 episodes, so I hope you're enjoying the ones that we put up so far, and I can promise you we've got some crackers still coming up as well. My guest today is Noel Britten. Noel is a very hard man to pin down because he now spends nearly half of his year in Borneo doing conservation work with orangutans. Noel is now a former stand-up comedian, an extremely knowledgeable magician, the creator of the Bizarre Bath Comedy Walk, and the organiser of the International Magic Convention and Festival, which happens in London every single November. I met Noel the week after the convention concluded. Here he is then, Noel Britten. So, have you had some sleep now? We're about 4 days removed from the convention. How was it from your point of view?
Little bit of sleep. My 5-day moratorium on people telling me what they think of the convention is almost up.
Yeah.
I always have 5 days. Normally, as soon as you appear at the end of the convention, people go, "So yeah, but why did you book so?" I'll tell you who I thought was crap and all that business. So the first time that happened, I just went 5 days. 5 effing days. That's all I want with no. So yeah.
Sorry about that. I gave you feedback after about 2 days.
Two's all right. But about 10 minutes after, when you're just knackered at the end of 7 days with not much sleep and all the stress and strain, and someone immediately, and not even going. I'll tell you what I like. I mean, it's a classic way of giving feedback, isn't it? You say 3 things that you like, and then you come in with, what I thought you could improve this bit slightly. Even if it was something you thought was absolutely terrible, well, you could improve it slightly by doing it. Okay, right, but it was just straight in on.
Yeah.
What the hell was that all about? Why do you? Well, I don't understand why you booked him or her or whatever, and it was just like.
How long do you plan it for? Is it literally a year in advance?
It's more than a year in advance, yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, and the people that Malika this year I've sort of probably written to for the last 7 or 8 years, trying to get over and stuff like that. So I mean, it's a yearly thing of can you do next year and maybe and. So emails already gone out for next year, and we're only.
So you are organising next year, and it's all gonna.
Well, I started sending emails. So just a pencil at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, and so there's still people that I write to every. Marco Carvo, I just got an email back from him saying, "Oh, you can't do it next year, but maybe we could pencil in 2016." So that's 2 years ahead. I'm booking him theoretically. So it's about. It goes on all the way through the year, and there's an initial flurry of the people that you want and your big names and stuff like that, and then you start working around that with your. I'm going to say filler, but that's not that's not a reflection on the acts. But it's like they're still good names, but it's like, well, who's going to work well with that person, and how's that going to work? And you usually get to about July or August, and suddenly realise that. Some element of the convention or the festival is completely lacking, and then you start panicking because there's not much budget left by that stage, and then it's usually another flurry about a week before when you suddenly think, of course, what I haven't thought about this year at all is, or haven't put as much work into. You tend to, it'd be nice to concentrate on everything and think, I'm going to get a completely perfect gala show and a perfect close-up gala and a perfect set of lectures and a perfect opening event and a perfect festival, but the truth is you'll probably get 2 of those sort of 90% right, and a couple 50% right, and a couple that don't work. So they're.
Why do you do it?
Those are the ones that you. Those are the ones that you hear about.
Yeah, of course.
10 minutes after you finish it. So it's never that. People are better now because I think probably said it to him, and I've just gone, oh, fuck off. So now people tend to know, all right, okay, yeah. So,
well, because what I think...
say something slightly positive and then...
What some people don't realise is that you're not being paid to do it. You do it... Why do you do it?
I do it because I went to the convention when I was probably 13 or something like that, and the first gala show I ever saw had Richard Ross and Fred Capps and Donardi in it, and they blew me away because I'd never seen magicians like that before. You know, I'd been at little regional conventions where the big name was Charlie Farnsbarnes, who'd won the, you know, local stage competition at the society, you know, 3 weeks before, and you go, oh right, okay, that's what magic's about. And I was like, right, okay. And then you see Fred Capps and Richard Ross, and you just go, oh, hang on a second, it's not like that. It should be like this. That's what it should be like. Bloody hell, that's amazing. So I went back every year and did the usual thing. So that was when I was about, like I said, about 12 or 13, I guess. And then I was doing magic at kids' parties and...
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
You did kid shows?
I did kid shows when I was 12 or 13.
Did you have a funny name?
No.
No.
I had my real name, which is obviously funnier than my stage name now. So.
Yeah. If you can find out Noel's real name, he does actually have a Facebook page, but but he keeps it quiet.
Keeps it very quiet. I've got one follower, I think, and that's me or something.
You're richly rewarded if you find it, because his profile picture is him with an orangutan as well.
I don't think it is anymore now.
Oh, is it not?
No, it's not. No, it's no. So yeah, I mean, the only reason I did Facebook was to try and get in touch with some acts. It was well, this is the easiest way to get in touch with a couple of people. And then I can't remember, I had to send friend requests to a couple of people. Quentin Reynolds was one,
right? And
I got a reply back from him going, I didn't know who was this asking to, friend me. He said, thankfully there was one photo on your site that had a picture of you somewhere in it, and I realised it must be you. So
you've been going to it since you were a kid?
So I was going to it when I was a kid. So I did my kids' parties stuff, and that was all very nice because I was making a bit of pocket money and all that business. So that was kept me interested in magic. And you do that thing. You go through phases when you're in your teenage years of finding other things to do. I was going to say girls, but to do that doesn't sound right, does it? To lust after from a distance.
Yeah.
In that usual shy magician way. She's lovely. So I'd sort of, although I'd go through a phase where I wasn't, mad about magic, these shows would still come in, these, kids' parties, and you go, well, that's an extra, I think I was charging 25 quid for an hour or whatever it was in those days, or 30 quid or something. You go, well, that's a bit of extra money coming in for not really that much work. But every year I'd go back to Ron's because it was just like, Ron's is coming up, I'll go and see that. And every year I'd see someone that you just go, that's why I love it. That's what it's all about. The rest of the year you'd be seeing crappy things or, like I say, small conventions and stuff like that. And every year something at Ron's would go, oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
So they had Vernon there one year and Slidini and Goshman was there every year and Tommy Wonder and Tamariz. And that was all in the days when they were... the new thing from Europe. So no one had really heard of them, and suddenly you're just seeing this person for the first time and just being blown away by it. So I loved all that. That was just, that's what magic should be. And then carried on going to it into my formative years, elder years. And then I think I started to walk with JJ. And I think JJ taught Martin to put him on the gala show. This is when it was at Her Majesty's.
Right.
So that the convention was, I think, at the TUC or maybe it was still at the Assembly, the Empire Rooms. But the gala show was at Her Majesty's. And JJ taught them into booking me to do a spot. And I did the spot, and that was, very nice. It's sort of the first convention I'd done, and I did basically... Full circle. What I did in this year's gala show as my spot, which no one had really seen, and so it registered because it was new, and it's that slight element. I didn't know this guy was around and stuff. So I did that, and then Martin and Ron very kindly asked me to compare the following year's show. So I think we did about 3 or 4 years at Her Majesty's, and literally at that stage I was just booked as the compare, and that was it. I wasn't.
You weren't involved at all?
No. And then it sort of just went down to a close-up convention for a couple of years. nothing to do with me taking over the conference show, I hope. But yeah, I mean, I think they just, hiring magisters was a huge thing each year.
Yeah.
And I think they sort of overextended themselves on a couple of the conventions. Because I mean, you say I don't make any money out of it. Neither do the Macmillan families by any means whatsoever. For everyone, thinking, oh, this is a nice little gold mine or whatever. I mean, they put money into it each year. Bless them. Partly, like I say, because they want to show people what magic can be.
It's fair to say, Noel, that you hear it and I hear it. People criticise how much the tickets cost, and you take that very badly, don't you? Because you're obviously you know the finances of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just for people who don't know, give us an idea of the scale of this convention and how difficult it is to make it work financially.
Well, part of it is, rod on my own back in that if I want to put good acts and stuff like that. I want to put on a convention that I want people to come to and go, oh, that's what magic should be at some stage during the weekend, and whether it's into close-up or bar magic or stage magic or whatever, something in that weekend I want to be like, oh, that's what it should be like. That's the benchmark, and that's, it's not Charlie Farnsbarnes down at the local society, and it's not doing. I mean, I'm going to say lots of things probably in this interview that are going to sound like digs at people and stuff like that. I really don't mean that. Just Albert Goshman never had a residency at a Harvester. Do you know what I mean? And it's like when you saw Albert Goshman, you were going, bloody hell, that's amazing. It was just a great bit of close-up theatre and stuff like that. So booking those acts is expensive. You're usually bringing people in from overseas just because there are some good English acts that I probably would book. Not many, but there are some. But the problem is they're seen all the time over here. So they're overexposed. So consequently, they're not going to register as well as someone who hasn't been seen over here before, or hasn't been over here for 5 or 6 years. So booking those guys is expensive, flying them over is expensive, putting them up for a week is expensive.
I was going to say, London hotel rooms are not 30 quid a night.
No. I mean, but again, they for all that everyone goes, oh, I'm not going to come because London's so expensive. There are a couple of guys that I know who were staying in Euston this year for the convention, and it wasn't quite a hotel where you're renting the room by an hour, but it sounded, there was definitely activity in the hotel, I'm sure, along those lines. But I think they said they were paying something like 60 quid because 3 or 4 of them shared a sort of dorm type room.
Yeah.
And it ended up being 60 quid for the 3 nights for each of them. You go, well, that's not outrageous. And if all you're doing is just going back to that room to sleep in for 4 or 5 hours, and then you're coming straight back to the convention centre, that's not a huge thing. So, but obviously we can't ask over Tom Mulliker and Jonathan Pendragon and then say,
put him in the Ibis.
Do you mind sharing a dorm room between the 4 of you? So, you want to put that up in a nice place, and that consequently costs money, but the upside of that is, I'm not going to say they raise their game, because obviously they always do the best whenever they go out, but it makes them feel special, and that's a nice environment to be in, and when they want to crash out, they can crash out in nice surroundings. So that's expensive. The Mermaid, I think that's over £5,000 a day to rent. So it's 3 days worth of rent there, so that's 15 grand.
Would it not benefit from maybe moving it to a different part of London? I mean, I was thinking if it was in Heathrow, I'd still go. Would that not free up and take some financial strain off of the Macmillans and your budget?
Well, one thing is then you've got to spend ages trying to find that place and look for it and stuff like that. And I'm as you know, I'm not around for half the year being overseas.
Yeah,
that's not the reason I go to avoid new venue tutors over here. So you've got to find and it's got to be the right place. The Mermaid is expensive, but I still think it's pretty much as good a venue as any other convention in England, and a lot better in a lot of respects. The theatre's, to me, is the perfect size. It's not a huge cavernous place. It's not a village hall with seats on just one level. It's it's nicely raked and tiered, and the dealers have got space, and the close-up can work on stage. So you've got all those elements to think about if you try and find a new venue, plus the usual hassle of probably 2 to 3 years, if you do find a new venue, of ironing out all the problems that you've already ironed out over the first 2 or 3 years that you're at the Mermaid. And then on top of that, it's the great unknown. You're saying, oh well, if it was at Heathrow, I probably would go. Well, that's not not definite. Do you know what I mean? And that's because you live in Oxford and Heathrow's on that side of the M25. But if you're coming in from Ipswich, suddenly that's...
I understand. Yeah, so central.
It might not be. It might not be, but there's enough financial risks with just running the convention without then going, I'll tell you what, on top of that, let's make a complete gamble and see if anyone turns up if we do it in St Albans.
Yeah.
That's an unknown. And you just and when you organise something like this, you realise that if you ask people stuff, they tend to give you the answer that they think you want to hear, or the one that's going to give them less stress, or they go, oh, of course I'd turn up there and stuff like that. And I've just seen that in the past, people will say those things and then they don't live up to them. So
when people criticise the ticket price, they should bear everything you just said in mind.
Yeah, to an extent, and the fact that FISM is €600 and Magic Live. Someone said recently, it might have been you, I've got to think who it is. Someone said, well, the problem is with English magicians is they're spoiled by Blackpool, which has got a very much pile it high and sell it cheap, mentality, and you're going to go and see a bunch of magicians. They've probably got more on the bill than we have at International, for £95. Well, the truth is, they've got 3,500 people going. So 3,500 times 95 gives you a much bigger budget than I get for putting on International. So if all those people came to London, I could put on a bloody brilliant show, and the ticket price would come down as well. The problem at the moment is, the number of people that come to the convention have to cover as much of the costs as without the stuff that we're prepared to lose by putting it on between them. The more people you get, and that's why online reviews drive me absolutely up the wall if it's written by someone who just goes on and is negative about everything. Because they're going, oh, this was the ticket price. If they go on and say the ticket prices are too expensive, you're going, yeah, but if more people came, we wouldn't have to charge what we're charging. There was one guy who went on and said, oh, the end of the show was sloppy. Not this year, but in the previous. The end of the show was sloppy with the walk down, and you're going, I'd love to spend an extra hour rehearsing the walk down at the end and get all the acts so it's really tight and the music comes in at just the right time and the lights are just perfect. But the truth is, you can't do that with the amount of time that we've got at the Mermaid. If we had more people coming, we could hire for the Thursday as well, have a technical rehearsal, on the Thursday and the Friday, and suddenly all that time element is taken out of it. So people going on and going, oh, this bit's bad and that bit's bad, if people are reading it and never been, and all they're saying is the bad bits, you just go, well, those people are going to, it's not worth going to that. Someone else this year, I've got now the convention's over and I can have my little, time on the forums to have a bit of a rant about various things, several of which have come up this year. Was saying, they're charging £60 and all I want to go do is go and look around the dealer hall. It's outrageous to sort of pay that sort of, charge that sort of money to go and look around the dealer hall. And if that's what he wants to do, I'm not taking it away from him, but that's not what a convention's about. Going to the dealer hall, for God's sake. The convention is going and seeing people, hanging out with other people that meeting other people that you don't know, sessioning and seeing stuff that's unbelievable because you've got people walking around that convention who aren't booked but are just guests there.
I can't believe people complain about the price this year because Alona, the hula hoop girl, was worth the price of admission alone. So
absolutely. Usually there's one act.
Yeah.
This year.
I don't want to talk too much about Bizarre Bath, actually, and the reason is that there are some other interviews.
You hate it.
No, yeah, I hate it. Yeah, that's
very overrated.
That's why I've been on it about 10 times. I said this to Noel. It was a couple of years ago. I had a period in my life where I was feeling a little bit down, and the way that I solved it was I went and watched Bizarre Bath, and it cheered me up. It's an amazing thing. I don't want to go into all the story of Bizarre Bath because I think there's other interviews out there where you already have.
Yeah.
What I do want to touch on, though, is something you just mentioned, and that is how has it changed in the last few years since TripAdvisor's come around and people write reviews about it? Has that Is that helping you, or is that hindering you? Or
I think it helps to a certain extent. I'm a great TripAdvisor fan. If I'm going on holiday to somewhere new, first place I'm going is TripAdvisor.
Yeah.
So no matter what I say negatively about it and how disgraceful it is that they've done this, and this, the truth is I love it. And the other thing that I say is that I think anyone in the service industry or anyone in the entertainment industry, has to agree with it, is you can't please all the people all the time. So as long as you've got that in your head, you start from there. It's a question of percentages and stuff like that. So as far as I'm concerned, we come out of TripAdvisor pretty well. Most of our reviews are, positive. You've got some that are negative, but which are still positive. I couldn't believe I was standing there. Everyone around me was laughing. I just couldn't see what was funny about it. 1 star. You go, well,
yeah,
that's still a good review as far as I'm concerned. Because everyone around me was laughing. Fine, no problem with that one whatsoever. That's what I call a positive negative review.
Yeah.
It was terrible. I thought it was going to be the history of Bath, and it was nothing like that. Fine. If anyone reads that and they're expecting the history of Bath, they're not going to come on it, and that's perfect. Someone who doesn't want the history of Bath reads that. Oh, that's the thing I want. So again, that's what I call a positive negative review. Then you have your negative reviews. Of which
am I the only person as well? When I go on TripAdvisor, I go straight to the poor ones. They're the fun ones to read.
Yeah, they're the fun ones to read, unless it's your thing.
Of course.
That's what it comes down to. And there was one in particular which was "Would you laugh at rape?" That was the title. That was the sort of strap line of the review.
Is that to do when you wrap the chain around the bunny's?
Well, I don't know, because in the review they said I can't remember exactly word for word, but they called it morally offensive, and I've never been so offended in my life. It was morally, reprehensible, and we walked away within the first 15 minutes. And you go, well, in that case, whatever it is must be in the first 15 minutes. And like you say, there's a mild bondage line when I'm tying up the rabbit.
Yeah.
But you go, but that's 50 minutes into the walk. So if they walked away after 15 minutes, it can't be that. It must be something. And as you know, it's pretty tightly scripted and stuff like that. You can go off on tangents, but overall, it's stuff. And I think it was at one stage, I go, oh, and as you can see, this is the red light area, because there's a red light in one of the windows, which used to be just by chance. And then they moved, so we had to put one in there because now there are callbacks to it and stuff like that. But anyway, so you go, and I'm thinking, well, that must be the line that they're going. Oh, red light district, sex trade. Half the people don't want to be in it. It's human trafficking. They're held there against their will. They're forced to have sex with people. Rape. But again, it was one of those lines where you're just going, honestly, is that what you're out of all the gags that you're hearing in the first 15 minutes? That's the one that is.
Yeah.
So anyway, that one's unpleasant, and I don't like it. And said to TripAdvisor, look, can you remove it, or just change the strap line? I mean, that's.
Do they do that if you ask?
No, I've heard that you can get them to take stuff down if you start threatening legal action and all this sort of business. And then that's 3 months on, and by that stage it's
down the
on
feed
page
anyway.
5 or 6 or whatever. But like you say, I'm the same as you, and it's one of the reasons I like TripAdvisor, is because you're looking at something that you want to do, you press on it, like you say, it comes up 90 good ones and 4 bad ones, and you look at a couple of the good ones because obviously they're going to be on the page that you're on, because that's the first page. Statistically they're going to be on the first page, and then you press on the poor ones to see what the poor ones are, and you can usually tell it's someone who's disgruntled or asked you about something, or there have been a couple of nights where we've had to cancel it right at the last minute for various reasons. There's a firework display in the city or something like that, and you just go, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it unless they're going to see it in the best possible sense. They're not going to see it if there's a firework display going on, because halfway through the show, all these fireworks are going to go off, and the town's packed because there are people there for the firework display. So it seems to me like the better thing to do is go, look, I'm really turn up there at 8 o'clock for the people who do get there, and go, look, I'm really sorry, I'll give them complimentary tickets for the next night, buy them a drink, and say that it's just not going to work tonight.
Yeah.
And you'll still get people going, it was outrageous. He said he wasn't going to do it.
Mm.
And you go, yeah, but that's because I wanted you to see it there was no point in doing it that night. You would have hated it. Now, is it better that they go on and write a review where they say, "Oh, he took my money and we hated it," or he told us that it was terrible, and he told us it wasn't going to work in this situation and would be terrible, and didn't take our money, but we were so disappointed we turned up there. It's just odd how people are. There are only 2 times that we've cancelled the show in terms of news stories, and that was Princess Diana dying and 9/11. Because you just sort of go, if it's in a theatre and people still want to turn up and it's within 4 walls, you go, okay, I probably would have carried on doing it. If you're walking around the streets of Bath and you've got people laughing on, those 2 days, which, one I do consider a complete tragedy. One I'm sort of going, I'm not a huge Princess Diana fan, so it's not saying I'm a fan. It's sort of going, well, she's died and that's sad, but it's not reason for shutters down everywhere,
Have you worried about the beheadings going on? Like, there's the guillotine.
Yes,
Have you considered chopping that out? Excuse the pun.
Yeah. No, that went out this summer.
You took that out because of it?
Yeah. Right. So we just missed it out. But yeah, just going back to the 9/11 thing, I had some Americans that night, and the woman was like, giving me a hard time for cancelling. She said, "Look, my son's just been inside watching the TV all day, and and we thought he could do this to take his mind off it. So we're pissed off that you're not doing it." And I was going, I can't lead people around the streets and have 30 people. Well, are they going to laugh anyway? Then you're considering every line. So even that one, I've got a gag. There's a section where we walk down a big set of steps, and there are a couple of gags that I do when people are walking down the steps. Well, I took those out for a couple of months afterwards because all the people died on the bloody stairs going down in 9/11, and you're just going, oh, is that going to bring back all those things? So you got those. So those are the 2 times that I cancelled. But like I said, the American one was really pissed off that we'd cancelled it. And then this year the guillotine went out just for, I think we took it out for about 5 nights. And the truth is, the walk's advertised as an hour and a half. It actually lasts about an hour and 40 minutes with a reasonable sized crowd. So if you cut that out, you're still getting back at 9:30. They're none the wiser that you've cut the thing out. And then after about 5 nights, we put it back in again. And I got to the end, and I said, I think maybe after about 3 nights, I was still getting the guy backstage to set it all up, and was judging whether thought I could do it or not and stuff like that. And for a couple of nights, he put the guillotine out, and I said, "Oh, follow me," and I just missed that section out. And on the 5th night, it was like, oh God, they're a nice crowd and stuff like that. So I went down, did it, and then finished outside the pub, and sort of did a market research thing at the end, and said, look, I was sort of a bit flustered at the end there because I wasn't sure whether to do that. We've had it out for the last 5 days because of the news stories and all this business, and I just wondered how you felt. People are going, about what?
Yeah,
and I said, what about the beheading? Oh, well, it didn't even cross our minds. I didn't think of that at all.
It's bizarre, Bath. You're now really your only gig in this country. You sort of stopped doing stand-up, haven't you? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Why have you stopped doing stand-up?
Because I stopped enjoying doing it, I guess. I certainly stopped enjoying the travelling.
I wondered if it was partly because a few years ago I saw you were supporting Lee Mack.
Yes.
And you were playing massive venues.
Yes.
Was it difficult, the come down then, to go back to doing...
That was part of it, definitely.
Yeah.
Not the size of the crowd. No, what it was that you walk into a theatre and everyone's facing towards you, and then you go to a comedy club and everyone's sitting on tables looking over their shoulders at you. And in a theatre they've come to see comedy, and a lot of comedy clubs, or the ones I was working with, Jongleurs and the Glee clubs, it's have a laugh, have a drink, and have a dance. And it's and at Jongleurs it was have a drink, have a dance, have a laugh. You're going, well, it's a comedy club and we've not even got top billing. We're still at the bottom of the poster. So in that sense, you just went, I've been spoiled, basically. I've been spoiled by doing the tour with Lee. But at the same time, also, Jongleurs went bankrupt shortly after I stopped doing it, and then they sort of compressed down, and it was only 2 nights a week instead of 3 nights. When it was 3 nights and it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or the league on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that was great. You go somewhere, you could get into a hotel room, you'd decamp for 4 days. I could take up some books and a laptop, and you'd have 4 days work and stuff like that to do during the daytime. Suddenly, when it went down to 2 days, it was like, well, you're travelling up there on the first day, and then so that means you've only got 1 day in the hotel room to catch up with stuff, and you're travelling more, and travelling on a Friday was worse than travelling on a Thursday or a Wednesday. That was all horrible. Lee's tour had spoiled me definitely by working to a focused crowd as opposed to a drunken crowd. I spend the winter over in Indonesia each year doing conservation associated stuff, and part of that is sort of looking at the world thinking people are tits a lot of the time, and suddenly you seem to see a lot more of those type of people in the comedy club audience than in other places. So and it was it was stag nights and hen nights, and they're all pissed, and you thought I'm not sure if they want to be here, and I'm not sure I want to be here.
Right.
So it seemed like a good time to sort of stop doing them.
Yeah. Do you sort of hate people as a result of what you sort of see in Borneo with the orangutans?
I'm definitely less tolerant of people, absolutely, over the last 6 years. I don't hate people. I mean, there's part of me that I find it interesting when I look at it and go, well, how come I can still do the walk, but I can't do comedy clubs? And you sort of go, so there is an element of drunkenness in it, and sort of just that whole mentality where you just go, and people aren't like that when they turn up for the walk.
Well, so you're doing a full featured show, aren't you? An hour and a half. Jongleurs is 20 minutes. You're driving all the way there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I've talked about this in the past. They're coming to see, not me, but they're coming to see something that I've created, as opposed to coming to see a comedy club where there are 4 comedians on, but they don't really know who the comedians are, and so there was all that.
I think that's the same for close-up magicians who do close-up events, and they just do an omni deck and ring flight, and then if they're creating something on stage, it's kind of like it makes the close-up sometimes a bit trivial or a bit
sure. And it's the same I say about stand-ups. It's the reason that stand-ups go and do Edinburgh for a month and lose loads of money. You go, well, you could have stayed in London and just carried on doing all the comedy clubs and made some money. Why are you going up to Edinburgh and losing loads of money and standing on stage with only 4 people in the audience? I'm not actually stating it to them directly like that, but my interpretation of it is they can go, well, those 4 people have decided to come and see me, as opposed to going to a comedy club and it's just seeing a bit of.
Did you ever do it in Edinburgh?
I did Edinburgh 1 year just to have a look at it and see what it was like.
With your own show?
No, that was in a package show, so it was 3 comedians and a compere.
Right.
And it's a sort of a regular show that Screaming Blue Murder used to take it up there all the time. It's called the Big Value Comedy Show, and they'd go up each year with a different batch of comedians. So you were building on the previous year's shows. So it had a reputation, but without actually being a person.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. And I think probably if I hadn't have had the walk, I gave up in August to go and do that when the walk was going on. July and August are our 2 busiest months. So you're giving up a really busy month to go up and do something that you go, oh, this is all right, So if Edinburgh was in December or January or February, I'd probably be there like a shot every year. But when it's competing with something that, I enjoy doing, you go, well, do I really want to go up there and compete with all that? Just, why would you do why would you do that? You go, well, it's fun. You go, yeah, but I have more fun if I'm staying, doing the walk and being at home.
Magicians are quite competitive, and there's all sorts of different characters, and I think you know what I'm getting at.
Right.
There's some complicated people in magic. Is that the same in comedy? Are comedians very, very competitive with their little pockets of...
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Is it?
And Edinburgh definitely sends... I mean, it used to, even before I went up there, every year it would be like, well, you heard who's gone mad this year. I mean, someone would always lose it up there big time, just because it's a very sort of intense, and this is pre-free festival and all that sort of business. So, I mean, everyone was paying money to be up there basically, and it was a sort of pressure cooker thing. And someone would go up there, and the comedians are exactly the same as magicians. They've got huge egos and they think they're the best ones, you know. So they'd go up there and suddenly they're working to 3 people, and someone who they think is a shit comedian is selling out, you know. And then it's all, it's because of the venue, it's because of their, you know, it's because of this, it's because of that. And you go, well, no, actually, maybe you're just not as good as them.
Fascinating stuff, and more to come from Noel very shortly. He's going to tell us why he turned down his MIMC when it was initially offered to him at the Magic Circle.
The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
Right now, I need to take a moment to tell you about my great friends Gigio and their web-based software. This is designed for professional magicians, and it's designed to save you a lot of time and hassle. It was invented by Martin Rowland, and he runs a brilliant service for you which will take care of your contracts and invoices. It will also track your payments for you and keep everything in a nice, neat place so that you have more time to do the things you want to do, like learning tricks, listening to the Magicians Podcast, and, I don't know, looking at porn on the internet or whatever it is you do yourself. So if you want to take a look at this, all you have to do is go to gigio.co.uk. That's Gigio, spelled Gigio.co.uk. If you go there right now, you can take a free 30-day trial. That's right, my friends, a free 30-day trial. You really have nothing to lose. All the top professionals in this country are using it, and they are also the reason why we are able to offer this podcast to you for free every week. So if you haven't done it already, go and check it out. Try it out. I promise you will not be disappointed. Okay, let's go back to Noel Britten. And I remember when you lectured at the Circle years ago, you did a lecture that basically began with, forgive me, I'm not quoting, but basically you going, we're not as good as we think we are. And you kind of did a thing about how, is it that magicians believe the bullshit they hear at gigs, where people tell them they're the best magician they've ever seen? And
yeah, part of it is that. Part of it is it's a natural human condition anyway. So the talk that I gave was all based on the woebegone effect, which is well documented, and basically they were asking people whether they thought they were, what sort of drivers they were. Were they above average, well above average, average, below average, or well below average? And everyone was rating themselves above average. You go, well, statistically that's not possible.
Yeah.
That's what average means. Some people have got to be below average.
Yeah.
But no one was going, I'm a shit driver. I'm really shit. And then they investigated that, and so my talk was based on that, because I would say, I would have said the same thing. I said, yeah, I'm a good driver. I've got 6 points on my licence for speeding, but that's okay because I speed responsibly. I only speed late at night when there's no one around, and blah, blah. You say you're justifying it all and everything like that. And I was saying that magicians, so naturally, that's in the same way everyone's kid is, they're very smart for their age, and they're doing really well at school and stuff like that. You never get people turning up going, my kid is just thick as shit. It just doesn't happen. So it happens across the board. It's not just about driving, it's about those things and anything. Are you creative? Oh yeah, I'm creative. Are you a natural lead? Oh, I'm a natural lead. All those things people overestimate themselves at. So obviously it's going to be the same with magic and magicians. But on top of that, you've got this extra thing, which I think such the dangerous part of magic, is most people haven't seen any magic, let alone good magic. So anything that they see is, that's incredible. Why aren't you on TV? That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And magicians start to believe it in the same way that comedians start to hear people. You're always going to appeal to one person in the audience, at least. If you're working with 300 or 400 people, one person there is going to go, and you've got 4 acts on the bill. Yeah, you've got to be pretty shit for everyone to think that you were the worst thing on the bill. Yeah, trust me, it's happened to me. I'm not saying it's impossible. But everyone's getting that. Oh, you're great. You should be on TV. And if you hear that enough, you start believing it, and then that leads to all sorts of problems because.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, literally being completely delusional almost.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
And the interesting thing with it is looking at. I mean, when I was doing stand-up comedy, there was a comedian called Dominic Holland, who was very good, very talented, great writer, good performer, and focused. Wanted to be famous. I think. Look at the way he was talking and the way he was acting and stuff like that. You think, no, this guy, he bloody wants it and stuff like that. And he never made it. And he had a couple of breaks and that didn't quite happen and blah, blah, blah. And he was a Michael McIntyre about 6 years before Michael McIntyre broke through. Very sort of similar, all observational stuff, quite middle class. And, I haven't seen Dominic since Michael McIntyre's made it. So I'm sure there'll be marks on his body somewhere. And and I was looking and going, he's incredibly focused. He's way more focused than I would ever be or have been. He was incredibly talented, much more talented than I was, and I'm still looking at him going, and he hasn't fucking made it.
Right.
If he can't get through it, I haven't got a fucking hope in hell, unless I just, strike it lucky.
Mm. Well, because a big part of it is the timing being right as well, isn't it? Yeah. So you being really talented, really focused, working really hard, but also you coming along at just the right moment,
the right time.
When there's a gap for you.
And there's an element of luck always, and people, and management behind you and stuff like that, and having the right people who are pushing you in the right way and all that sort of business. But I had to do with as I want to have on a regular basis, to do with a magician who was lamenting the fact that they weren't, they'd never been snapped up and they weren't on TV and stuff like that. And I said, who's the most talented magician that you think's working around in your field at the moment? And they said, and I said, and honestly, all egos apart, do you think that they're as good as you? And they went, oh God, actually, I think he's probably better than me. Completely one side. I said, well, why shouldn't he make it before you make it? And there's no answer to that, is there? No. It's just that thing of it should be me. Yeah. It should be, and again, it's not. It should be me that wins the lottery. It should be me that's.
Yeah.
X Factor's just bloody full of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just people week after week saying, oh, this is all I've ever wanted, and it's got to be me, and it should be me, and I'm better than all these other ones.
Time is now.
And what am I going to do if I don't do it? And so it's not a magician-based thing, and it's certainly not a personal-based thing. So when I do say these things to people, as I tend to say them, because I just sometimes go, someone's got to say this is bullshit to this person, otherwise, everyone's walking around sort of patting each other on the back or treading on eggshells, thinking, oh, this is going to upset this person if I say this or I say that. And sometimes you just go, I mean, my mentor, who was Alan Allen, who was an escapologist, he'd just say it.
Yeah.
And you just go, actually, in a way, do you know what? It's not nice to hear, but sometimes you need to hear it, and sometimes it's the thing that kicks you up the arse.
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah. And sometimes you go, coming back to the international weekend, sometimes you need to see it on stage and think, fucking hell, I am nowhere near that level.
Yeah.
And I should pull my finger out before I start thinking, why is no one snapping me up and stuff like that?
Yeah.
If that person on stage is still just, not that I'm putting down the International Magic Convention, but if that person is still schlepping around magic conventions that hasn't got their own TV show, well, why the fuck should I have one? I always bring his name up. David Williamson, to me, should be a star, a superstar, and known by all the public and everything like that. He's incredibly skillful. To me, I always say he's the only, which then gets him into trouble, but I think he is the only person in magic with naturally funny bones. I think everyone else who does comedy magic, you can tend to see they've worked at it really hard, and that's great. I'm not taking anything away from them, But in terms of just giving David a prop and pushing him out on stage and expecting him to do something with it that's going to be naturally funny, I don't think there's anyone to touch him.
Mm.
And he's not.
He didn't make it, did he?
He hasn't made it yet.
No.
And I hope he does. I really do, because I think he's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And he's one of those people that, and you sort of get them every generation and stuff like that. But you sort of go, we are so lucky that out of everything that he could have picked, he picked magic, because you sort of go, God, he could have just gone on and just done stand-up comedy. He could have gone on and been a great actor. I mean, just the acting that he does, when he makes out that he's screwed up on stage, you buy into it completely.
That talk that you did was at the Magic Circle.
Yes.
And what's your relationship been with the Magic Circle over the last sort of 5 years or so? I mean, I know you had a period of time where you were on the council.
Up and down. It's...
Did you turn down your MIMC when they offered it to you?
I did initially, yes.
Why?
Because I thought they were giving them out a bit too easily, and I think it should be something that you really... I mean, how many things are there in magic that you still get to a certain age and think, oh God, I've still got to get a bit better to get that? And I think the MIMC should be one of those things. Mm. So that should be a real benchmark, and that's my view, and it wasn't the view of the person who gave it to me and stuff like that, and so he became offended that I turned it down and all this sort of business. But it was sort of going... Which
is obviously Jack.
It was Jack, yes.
He was president at the time.
Yeah. And in the end, because I sort of analysed things overly much, and so there's all this hoo-ha going about, it's outrageous that you turned it down, and this is embarrassing, and it's already been passed by council, and how I can go back to council and say it. So I sat down and worked out why I thought people should get their MIMC. And I thought it should be that you've done something outstanding for the Magic Circle, which, as far as I'm concerned, someone serving tea for the last 25 years, or someone being an usher every Monday night for the last 40 years, or whatever, some theoretically menial thing that someone's done for years and years and years for the benefit of the other members of the Magic Circle. They just, they've done something for the Magic Circle. No, absolutely right, they should get an MIMC.
Right.
I think people should get the MIMC because they've done something outstanding for magic in general. So, Jim Steinmeier, MIMC, So, but Jim's not a performer, so, he's just invented origami and interlude and all those things. So anyway, those are the three. So there was doing something incredible for magic, doing something incredible for the Magic Circle, and being a bloody good performer. World-class performer. Those are the three things. And I sort of thought I hadn't done any of those three things to any sufficient level that I should get MIMC. And then I was speaking to Richard McDougall, who's my lifelong friend, best friend in magic, who I went to school with.
Was Richard already an MIMC at this point?
I think he probably would have been, yes.
Right.
But Richard's a world-class performer, so I've got no problem with that whatsoever, and has done the at-homes since he was 18, I think. So
these are the public events that they hold.
The public events that you don't get paid for, and you turn up there, and they give you expenses, but it's not.
It's bus fare.
It's bus fare. Yeah,
taxi fare maybe.
Taxi wouldn't get you all the way home in London. What they give you. So he's done that since he was 18, and he's the same age as me, so he's 50 now. So that's 32 years that he's done those shows for nothing to build up. MIMC, absolutely, and combined with being a bloody good performer. And I hadn't done at home since I was 18. I don't think I'm a bloody good performer. And I sort of didn't think that I'd done anything for magic. And then Rich sat down and he went, right, okay, well, let's go through these things. And he was saying, you've organised runs for how many years now? And I was going, well, whatever it was at that time, 6 or 7 years. And he goes, well, that's doing something for magic, isn't it? Why do you do that? And I said, like I said to you at the beginning, I said, well, because I want to show people what good magic can be, the public and magicians. And he was like, well, that takes up a lot of time, doesn't it? I was going, yeah. Okay, yeah, well, but yes, no, I'm not quite sure about that. He goes, how long's Bizarre Bath been going? And I said, whatever it was at that stage, 18 years. He goes, 18 years you've been doing a show. That's quite a long time, isn't it? I was going, yeah. So, it probably makes it the longest running magic show in England. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
that's something, isn't it? And he went through, 3 or 4 things like that, and sort of, I went, oh, okay, yeah, I can see maybe now, someone's actually sort of sat me down and talked me through it. I'll accept it. I mean, if it hadn't been, the wheels had started rolling by that stage.
Yeah.
When I was offered it, but if Jack had just come up to me on the slide and said, "I was thinking about offering you the MIC," I'd have done it, please.
Why do you not rate yourself as a performer?
Because I look at people like Williamson and think I'm nowhere near as good as him. I know that I work hard at it, but I don't think I'm naturally funny. I do things on stage that I fucking hate when I see other people do on stage and would take them to task over it. Like laughing at my own jokes and all that business. I do the laugh thing at the end of my jokes as a sort of either a defence mechanism or a sort of rolling into the next line. I hate it. When I watch myself on stage, I'm just like, oh, why the fuck do you do that? So I hate all that. Yeah, and the fact that, maybe the fact that I'm so into this, people thinking that they're better than they are. I want to go the other way. I want to go, right, if I say I'm...
I would say too far the other way, because you're not a terrible performer by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm not saying I'm a terrible performer, but I'm not saying... you look at people, you go, and then you go, so the 1,500 members of the Magic Circle, well, how many MCs should there be? So that's your first question. And if there are only a few, you start running through people, which, when I was given it, was Channing Pollock was still alive, Secret and Roy was still working, David Copperfield, Paul Daniels, Wayne Dobson. You're going through an awful lot of names of really phenomenal performers before you can actually go, fuck yeah, I should be in that list. I just it should be a real thing to strive towards and stuff like that, I think. And there aren't many things like that now, unfortunately, I think.
So day to day with the Magic Circle, we don't see down there so much anymore.
No, so what happened was I was on the council, I did a couple of years organising the summer school, got slagged off for that, got slagged off for various things there, had fairly forthright views on things that I thought they should be doing there that they weren't doing, and was getting stressed out with it and getting annoyed by it. And Lisa, my wife, said to me, "Why do you do it?" And I said, because I want to give something back to magic. Magic's all I've ever done. I think of myself as a comedian, but I'm a prop comedian who's used magic, and that's how I got into it and stuff like that. And if it wasn't for magic, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing today. Wouldn't have made the money that I've made. I've had a bloody good life. I've never worked a 9 to 5 since I was 17 or whatever.
Always have an afternoon snooze.
Very important.
Never try and get hold of Noel between 4 and 6.
4 and 6. No chance. All that's great. And I said, I want to give something. I want to do something back for it. That was why I wanted to do it. And Lisa went, well, do you do that for ROMs as well? That's what ROMs is about, isn't it? You say that's the international. That's you want to give something back to magic. I said, yeah, that's. She went, well, okay. Say you only had to do one. Which one would you do? I said, well, it's ROMs. That's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. And she went, well, maybe you should just do ROMs. And it's like, actually, yeah, you've got a point with that. And that coincided with something else that was tied in with ROMs and the Magic Circle, and someone sort of saying, oh, it should be one or the other. So it's like, right, okay, yeah, I'll do the other.
So when
part of that is, I think you've got to look at yourself and be so aware of who you are and what makes you work well and stuff like that. And since I've started performing, I've been my own boss. So I was doing street performing, and you can't get more own boss than that. There's no one even booking you to do it. You're just going out and doing that stuff.
Well, you said on another interview the reason you stopped doing it was because you had to start getting up and queuing up to get your pitch. That was one of the reasons why you
Yes, well, I gave up the street performing. Yeah, and I find it difficult to work in committees unless it's a committee that I've put together. So, there's a great bunch of people who really help me with the convention, and I can bounce ideas off, and they're always there and willing to help and stuff like that, which is phenomenal. And I really appreciate all their help. James Freeman, Will Houston, John Robinson, who's the backstage, gala show stage manager, and doesn't even get seen by the conventioneers. So there are all those people. But that sort of body of people has grown up over the years, and people are added slowly and coming in, and Ed Hilson and so on, and various other people, and it gets to the stage where you go, well, that's a nice little band of people. But the circle, you're okay, right? Well, we'll put you on the committee for X, Y, and Z. Well, who else on the committee? Well, Charlie Farnsbarnes, Joe Bloggs, and Charlie Smithers. And you go, oh, for God's sake! I mean, Charlie Smithers doesn't know. It's the committee for psychic phenomena, and Charlie Smithers is a kids performer, and you just go, that's not the committee it should be for doing that type of thing. That's just nonsense. And of course the circle is all voluntary, and it's volunteers who are giving up their time to do it, and the people that you most want on the committee aren't the sort of people who volunteer to do stuff. So sometimes...
Well, I think the biggest problem is everyone's got their own vision for it, haven't they? And there's not a consensus really, is there?
No, and that was one of the things I was trying to do. I mean, when I said that I was stepping down from council, one of the things I really tried to instigate was having what was sort of ended up being termed rather grandiosely a strategy day, for just like, well, what is it that we're actually... Because it's something that I touched on when I gave the talk. I said, for 100 years we've strived to get our own building. And that was the focus, was, we want our own headquarters and stuff like that, especially for the last 20 years, before they got the headquarters now. It was like, that sort of unified everyone. There was actually something to aim towards. And then they got the building. It's like, we've got the building now. And then it was like, now we haven't got anything to sort of keep that group focus for, and the ambition and the vision, and this is what we're striving towards. And suddenly everyone's going off on, well, of course, what's important about the circle is live shows. What's important is streaming. What's important is the magazine, And each of those is important, but you need someone at the top who's going, well, this is my vision for it. And then they get voted on that vision, because that's what the membership decide they want, as opposed to sort of platitudes of, well, I've done this in the past, or I think it should be, Magic Circle should just be a big friendly club, and you go, no, say something specific that you're going to go, that is what I think the circle should be. Make it really specific, and then people vote for you, and you can go, well, look, I got voted in on it. Someone else stood against me. They said what they wanted. I got the majority of people, so I think that means we've got to go the way that I thought we should go. But that's not that easy, because you could have a president who does that, and then the council's all like, oh no, we don't want to do that, and then it all jams up again. Whereas with Ron's, it's sort of pretty much me left to my own, and that makes it much easier in a way, although it's not easy.
You enjoy the process of putting together Ron's, or is it...
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, sort of, putting together a good...
When's the payoff for you? Is that when you stand in the foyer after the gala show, or...? Yes, sort of, I guess, and nice comments afterwards and stuff like that. Unless, and Martin's been so kind with the budget over the last couple of years, just bumping it up a bit, and that's all that I've needed. Up until 2 years ago, there'd be at least one act in the gala show that I just go, if I just had a bit more money, or someone had dropped out at the last minute and you've got to put someone else in, or whatever, whatever had happened, it's just and in the last 2 years, have been shows that I've walked off at the end of going, well, everyone that I wanted in those spots was available for those spots. And so that's the first thing. I'm walking out on stage knowing that they're good acts, in my opinion, my favourite acts and stuff like that. So that's the reason I choose them. I tend to have worked with them before, or certainly within the emails and stuff like that, you get an idea of whether they're going to be easy to work with and fun to work with backstage. And because I've built that up over a year, it means it means I can structure the show the way that I think it should be structured. And it means I can write material as I book each act. I've got a year to think,
I've got the fucking hula hoop act, right? I've done what?
She was amazing.
She was amazing without the hula hoops. And so you've got a year to think of lines and stuff like that. And so it's sort of all that comes together in going, and because I book them, I know that I can have a front of cloth act and then a full stage act and front of cloth act and a full stage act. So I don't have to be out there I don't like being out on stage any longer than I have to be, and we've got a flashing light system and stuff like that.
It's not a flashing light system, it's a bloke with a torch.
It's a bloke with a torch. Technically, that's a flashing light. And do you know the tale for when I spotted it? Oh, I don't know, it's a secret. Okay, so you can watch out for that. So all those things make it ideal, whereas if you get booked for a gala show, to compare a gala show, you turn up there and there'll be at least one act that you think, oh, for God's sake, I've got to go on after that and say, what the fuck am I going to say after that? Because I think they're terrible.
Right.
And I'm not good at hiding.
That's the point where you do the raffle.
That's the point with that. No, but anything like that, absolutely. You get all those little tricks to cover it and stuff, and intros that. I remember I worked at Abbott's convention a few years ago, and Jeff Hodgson was comparing one of the other shows, and he came out and he said, so anyway, our next act, I want to read this because I want to get this absolutely right. And he took out the intro that obviously the actor had given to him to, say. And I was thinking, you crafty bugger, because you're not saying it anymore now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said it, not he didn't give it, he said it, but I want to get this right. He's worked at, and you're going, now you're one step removed from
this business. We're rapidly running out of time here, I'm sorry to say. What was the thing you wanted to say about your afternoon snooze?
Afternoon snooze. That's the other thing is, a couple of things very quickly, that I think you've got to know elements of, I can do shows when I've got a headache, I can do shows when I've just heard bad news before I go on stage, I can do all those things. I can't do a good show if I'm tired. I know that. Yeah, right. So that's the reason for the snooze. And I think you've got to try and work out if there's anything like that within you. When I say you, not me, you across the table, I mean people out there, that what is it that makes you do a good show? And once you start tapping into those things, whatever it is, whether it's a little pre-show warm-up or, oh God, I need to run around the block or whatever just to get my energy up, you've got to work out what those things are and then make sure that that happens every time. Because like I say, I've tried so many times something's happened in the afternoon and I don't have my full nap. And then, even during ROMs this year, I sneaked off for an hour's snooze on Sunday afternoon and Saturday afternoon. Because I just know, I was still shattered when I went on stage because it's been a long week and stuff. So that was one thing. And the other thing that I think is tied in with that is just knowing what you're naturally good at. I think so many magicians try and extend their breadth of talent.
Well, this goes back to self-awareness, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
I think you've got that probably more than anybody, actually, listening to everything you're saying. Probably, hope I don't offend you, but to the extreme where you're saying you don't rate yourself as a performer. I don't think that's true. I don't think many people listening to this who have seen you perform will agree with that. But obviously that's you being extremely self-aware, and you're saying magicians lack that then to a certain extent.
Yeah, and again, going back to, because ROMs is just finished and you get people going, oh, that lecture was terrible because X, Y, or Z, and you're going, but people get good at what they're naturally good at. That seems to me like that's the way it should be. So you get someone who gets on stage and says, okay, this is how you should do business in magic, and they've got great business ideas and everything like that. Well, they can sort of teach you that stuff, and you can say, okay, right, I'm going to go off and do that because he's told me that it's a good thing. But that doesn't mean you'll ever come up with those ideas yourself, because if you just haven't got a business brain. So although you can go off and do those things, you're never going to expand that in any way because you just don't think in that way. If you're not naturally funny like David Williamson, you've got to work at it a lot harder, and you're never going to be able. So David Williamson giving a talk on how to be funny wouldn't be nearly as educational and informative as Charlie Farnsworth's doing Electron had to be comedy, had to do comedy, because you can see him going, well, you've worked at it really hard. Whereas David, it's just natural. So you can't teach those natural things, and then people are naturally good in front of a big audience, or naturally good in front of a small audience, or naturally good at being serious, or naturally being good at comedy. And the thing with magicians is, I think, just look around and go, oh, I'll give this a go, I'll give that a go, and that's just not natural. It's not what they're particularly interested in. It's a sort of herd following mentality, and consequently people, and that's sort of why people aren't as good as they could be, is because they're being led by other people and thinking, oh, I should do this, I should do that. And always, a few years ago, it was, oh, you should go into trade shows. Trade shows, that's where the money is, that's where all the work is at the moment. And the truth is, money's always there. Now, if you're, there's not a single business that you can mention around the world that someone hasn't made isn't a millionaire out of, because they've just done it better than everyone else. So it's, you shouldn't be going where the money is. You should be doing what you want to do. Because the truth is, you're much more likely to make money or reach fame or whatever is on your list of what you want to do, because you're doing the thing that you're passionate about, and therefore the thing that you're probably best at. So I don't know if there's any information in there.
I think that's really interesting. When are you disappearing off back to Borneo, and how long are you going for this time?
Are you burgling the house?
Yeah.
I am going at the end of November, and I'll be away until the beginning of the walk next year, which is beginning of April, so about 4 months.
Well, I hope that goes really well,
right,
and enjoy it. I'm sorry we're out of time, but
no problem.
Thank you so much
for
doing
pleasure.
it.
No,
Noel Britten.
And also, just quickly before you finish this,
oh, yeah,
because knowing how much time the convention takes and how little thanks people sort of give, I hope people who are listening to this give you the thanks that you deserve for putting all this together, because like the convention, I know it takes up a lot of time, I know you don't make any money out of it, and I know how frustrating it can be when people start going just bitching about it. And so I really appreciate you doing it.
Oh, thanks, Noel.
Well.
Really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Huge thanks to Noel. I really appreciated his kind words at the end there. The International Magic Convention, which he organises, happens in November every year. The Bazaar Bath Comedy Walk happens in Bath from March through to October. And of course, his biggest passion being the orangutans. If you'd like to make a donation to help them, you can visit internationalanimalrescue.org. Thanks for tuning in this week. I really appreciate it. See you again next time.